Well, hello, and welcome to the Legacy Insights podcast. And I am your host, Moving Money Mike. And we are at episode 9. Wow, can you believe that? Episode 9. Man, when I got started and I had this relaunch, I said to myself, the people deserve more. And I said I was going to give you more. And here we are, episode 9. Listen, I'm your host, Moving Money Mike, and this is the Legacy Insights podcast. We're here to discuss entrepreneurship, financial strategies to guide you to your goals and dreams. Simply put, we're going to provide you the insight to get your mind and your money right. We're going to be covering topics, tips, strategies. We're going to be having interviews. We're going to have guests, right? We're working in this pillar right now, so we're going to get these foundational things, skills out of the way, your strategies out of the way, so that you have something to build on, right? Because every episode's building, right? We're going to be covering these like these social issues that are affecting you. Like this is not a political show, right? But this is definitely an economic one and a financial one, a family one, structured just for you. So the things that affect you, how they affect you, how they don't affect you, right? That's what we're going to be talking about. We need to know what a legacy is, what is insight versus sight, and how are we going to make that happen for you. So my goal is to assist you in becoming a better informed individual, an entrepreneur. So what? It's time to get smarter. All right, so here we go. Episode number 9. I got my trusty show notes here, and we're going to jump right in. Listen, real quick recap. We've got 8 previous instruction info packed episodes prior to this one. Please go to YouTube at Legacy Insights Podcast. Hit the subscribe. Listen to these episodes. I'm telling you, there's information here that can possibly change your life, right? If you already have some insight, that's great. It's going to confirm what you already know. If you don't have some insight, it's going to provide some light. It's going to start to getting you thinking, right? Because this is about getting your mind, then your money right. Right. So the last episode we were talking about a line. And in that, we're talking financial, family and financial values, teaching kids, your spouse, money and family goals. You got to be in alignment, right? And and from that episode, from alignment to pillar number 5, which is change. Oh, shifting generational habits, breaking the paycheck to paycheck cycle. Listen, we ain't playing. We come here to assist some people. We've come here to help people make some change in their lives, right? That's what this show is about. So, what if the habits you inherited around money are holding you back? I told you this is about mindset. What were you instilled with about money, right? And what if it could be one to change the story of your family's legacy? Right? So like you built some inherited ideas and habits around money that you don't even realize that you're perpetrating on a regular. Right? I always talk about necessities over niceties, but a lot of times priorities are niceties over necessities. Right? You got a $500 pocketbook with $5 in it, right? You're driving a BMW, $700 a month, and you work in 2 jobs, one just to pay the car note, and the other one to just get by on. Right? You're looking good, and you're getting to work, right? But it's stressing you out. Ain't nothing wrong with looking good, but if it's stressing you out, you got to ask yourself, is it worth it? Right? So here we go. Generational money habits. What are they? Behaviors, beliefs, mindsets passed down. Ask yourself, what are some things that you were taught in your household that you heard or did not hear in your household, or got it from your friends, or as you in your buddies as you were growing up around the conversation of money, and how it should be spent, how it should be handled, right? So at one point, you know, everybody was running around talking about balling, right? I had someone very close to me just last week say to me, I want to live my best life and save some money too. I don't know about y'all, but where that happened at? Living your best life and saving money. You must be making some good damn money, right? Because living your best life means you can basically live carefree and do what you want, when you want, how you want to do it, and and take some people along with you. But everybody I know, they take vacations on credit cards, right? And didn't have to come home and put in some extra time to pay off the credit cards. Or how about this? Still paying off credit cards because living their best life from last year, the year before. Oh, it's happening. It's happening. So if you've got those kind of money habits, this show is for you, because this is the hope, right? Common poor money habits: living the paycheck to paycheck, right? Avoiding money conversations and fear of investing and having debt cycles. I heard the other day, it said tomorrow has you crippled. No, I'm sorry. Yesterday has you crippled. Tomorrow has you living in fear. We got to dominate right now. So check that out, right? Yesterday has us crippled. Tomorrow has us living in fear, but we got to dominate right now. Because like if we just dominate right now in focusing on better money habits, better financial strategies, tomorrow will take care of itself, and we won't have to live in fear of coming up with more month than money. You get what I'm saying? So that's what we're talking about here. Having some real talk. Why don't many families talk about money? Because there's usually a lack of it, right? Or they just don't know what the good conversation could be, right? If you're already struggling with money and like what are you going to tell your kids? Well, we don't got it. I remember conversations around my house as we were coming up. We just didn't have it, right? I'm a '60s baby, right? Tell you a little bit about that. It was a lot different back then. And a lot of conversations were, listen, we don't got it. But we avoided those money conversations because of that, right? If you in fear of just a silence, and it perpetuates like a struggle. Because if you don't talk about it, you don't address it. If you can't bring the demon out of the darkness, right? How are you going to shine a light on it to get to some freedom, right? So you got to have these money conversations with your children, with your spouse, right? About like how better to manage the money, right? Your dollars, every dollar, and I said this in the previous episodes, your dollars got to have a destination. They got to have a place to go to work, right? Because when you work for it, now you got to have put your money someplace for it to work for you, right? It's got to be making money, and it's got to be someplace where it's at least getting a return that's greater than the inflation rate. So let's keep it going here. So, people avoiding talking about credit, and I just mentioned that people going on vacation and racking up that debt, right? I'm pulling some power plays right now, right? To pay off any kind of credit that I got, super score, right? Super score myself, right? And then go out and finish up this dream home I got. Listen, it's got to happen, because if you don't have a plan, a goal, and then a strategy, right? Because you can have a plan, you can have a goal, but if you don't have a strategy, because guess what? A plan don't guarantee success. A strategy helps you to navigate where you're going to that goal, right? So you got to have some strategies, right? So here we go. Here are a few reasons why people live paycheck to paycheck: rising costs, poor money skills, and lack of debt planning. And the big one, instant gratification. We talked about the niceties over necessities. So let's talk first about rising costs. Can we personally do anything about rising costs? Some would say no, because you're not the wholesaler or the retailer, but we can have some power in the actions that we take around these rising costs. And what are those? And what is that, you ask? Your choice in goods. There are places that will allow your dollar to go much further, right? Instead of going to Macy's, go to Walmart. Well, everybody, a lot of people go to Walmart, right? Buying online, buying a sale rather than the full price, right? These are some simple money tricks, right? Going to Aldi's, right? I don't know if people where you may be living at, right? But there's ShopRite, there's Aldi's, there's Food Town, right? Aldi's would be a place that your dollar can stretch little bit further, right? That's one way you can address rising costs, right? And just having a budget in place so that you know what you're saving just as much as you're spending. Um, that's where the lack of planning comes in. These are some of the reasons why people live in paycheck to paycheck. Lack of planning. If you always do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. It's just that simple. They say insanity is repeating the same mistakes, expecting different results. Well, if you just keep spending because you're not a saver, you're going to always find yourself in a situation where you're there. So these are just common sense conversations that I'm having with you, right? But you got to understand, right? A credit card and debit card are the most insidious devices that they've come up with to separate you from your money. That swiping of a credit card, that swiping of a debit card disconnects you from your money, because it's not like you're taking physical cash out of your pocket and handing it to somebody. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about literally handing your cash to somebody, but if you cannot touch that cash, it's the disconnect. And you will tend to swipe more. You will tend to tap more. Right now, they got you tapping, right? Tap, tap, tap. Come on, people. And we know this because the moment you leave your house, you're in a deficit, right? So, lack of planning will separate you from your money. Lack of strategies. So, we're talking here about instant gratification when it comes to that debit card and the swiping. I have a few acquaintances that they just love retail, power shop, and then guess what they got to do? They got to return it. How many people out there know about that? Raise a hand, right? Hit the like button, hit the share if you know what I'm talking about, right? Because that means we're connecting. If you know somebody out there right now, share this episode with them, because we're talking about instant gratification and change of the cycle of paycheck to paycheck. People need to hear this, right? So as we break this down, you know, about instant gratification, rising costs, and lack of planning, here's a couple of a few practical steps to break the cycle, right? Building a smarter emergency fund. What does that look like? Okay, so I always say to start small, right? So that you start building a muscle. It's like going to the gym, right? How many of you have not been in the gym yet or back to the gym yet, in the last couple of weeks or months? You got to start small. You got to start all over again. You got to start with the two-step. Like when you go to the out, if you're going out to the club still, right? You ain't going to go into the full shake. You're going to go do the two-step, right? The same thing when you go to the gym and you start flexing these money muscles, right? You've got to start small. So I would suggest you start with saving $1,000 in an emergency fund, right? Anything less than $1,000 is not going to help you, because if the car breaks down or the rent needs to get paid, $1,000 will kind of plug that hole, right, in the well or in the bucket. So that's what you really want to do, right? So budgeting with purpose. So again, I said your dollar's got to have a destination, right? Your dollar's got to have a destination. So you want to align spending goals and not just pay bills. So I tell people all the time that I don't go to work to pay my bills. I go to work to get paid personally. Then I can pay whom I need to pay. So it's not about the utility company, the mortgage, or the niceties. No, it's about putting money, as much money in my pocket for me personally to live the lifestyle that I believe I deserve. That's why I'm never going to stop, right? Some people would say because of their money experiences, they say that wealthy people are greedy. They could never get enough. That depends on the individual. Wealthy doesn't mean that you got everything you need and you're supposed to stop. No, what it means is, what type of lifestyle do you want? If you've got everything and you're satisfied, then you're living a rich life. But if you're a person who has a capitalist type of mentality, guess what? It's really not so much about the money as it about the good you could do with the money, or the things that you can provide for them with the money. Right? There's billionaires out there. There's billionaires, multiple billions of dollars. But do you see them stop trying to acquire more wealth? No. It's not an evil thing. The only reason it feels evil is because maybe you're not where you want to be. And that's not a jab at you, but it is something that you could take a look at. And it is something that, like, you can say, hey, maybe I should do more, or maybe if I could do more, this is what I should do. No, I believe in a hand up, not so much a hand out, right? Because believe me, right, I know what that's about. I told you I'm a 60s baby, and there was times, right? So I believe in a hand out. I mean, a hand up, right? I do. I believe in a handout. That's just what it is. So we're talking about here aligning goals and not just bills. So you go to work to make the money. Your dollar's got to have a destination. I go to work to make money so I can take care of my responsibilities in my lifestyle. So you get that? All right, let's keep it going. Shifting from a debt driven to a savings driven mindset. Man, it's about getting your mind and your money right. I'm telling you, go to YouTube at the Legacy Insights podcast, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Matter of fact, there's a QR code there on the page. Scan that QR code, get the financial information that it's going to provide you, so that you can start building whatever it is that you want, building toward your goal, getting some strategies in place, right? Stop allowing other people idea of wealth and economics defines you, right? No, right? um there's a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and he said, right, it's not the employer's fault that you accepted the money that he's paying you. in my last the previous episode 2. No, not episode 2. Actually, it was the elevate pillar, the pillar 2, elevate side hustles, investing in upskilling, right? So we're talking. See, like these episodes are building off each other. So please go back to those previous episodes, listen to those episodes, because there's nuggets in there that I'm building off of, so that you can get your mind and your money right. So here it is, shifting from a debt driven to a savings driven mindset, right? Those niceties are keeping you in debt. The living your best life is keeping you in debt. They say you got to save now because it gets greater later, right? You got to do a little sacrifice. You got to sacrifice to get to where you're going, right? Maybe it's not going out um every week, but having date night or that one special night where you can do it all, right? Well, not all of them, right? Because we try to save somebody, but do it in a way that is conservative, fun. You get that release, right? Picking up some activities that are costly, not cost less, right? You know, Hiking, uh, picnicking, right? Day trips, things that don't require, long lengths of stay, but still just as enjoyable. Sightseeing, bird watching, um, things that in nature and stay away from the mall, right? Just stay away from the mall. Those things that will allow you to keep your money in your hands and in your pocketbooks, in your accounts, in your wealth growing strategies, right? So you're gonna highlight some success stories, right? So here we go. I know of a few people who really kind of took saving to, like, the 10th power, right? Where they're like they locked down on a budget, and they've been on their budgets for well over 2 years, 3 years, and they're really knocking out that debt because they it's not a quick process. It's not a quick process. You've got to, if it took you a while to get into that debt, it's going to take you a while to get out of it. Unless you hit that mega ball that's coming up this week. I don't know if y'all heard about that mega ball this week, but it's over $750 million, right? You can play that ticket, man. You got to be in it to win it, right? But don't spend too much, right? Because there's no guarantee. It's just like Atlantic City, right? You rolling dice, when you're trying to play that mega ball, but it'd be sure enough to hit 1% of that 750 million, right? So what I'm saying to you is that you got to have some strategies in place so that you can keep your mind and your money right going forward. So they've been on this debt reduction plan for the last 2 to 3 years, and they're actually doing really well. I'm proud of them. Um, you know, um, how can I say that without giving anything away about who they are and what they do, is how they're doing, who they are, right? Um, but they had the cars, they had the jewelry, and they were living way above their means. They were living way above their means. Eh, you know the college debt, you know mortgage, the fine furniture. But of course, you want to be nice. They were a professional couple, right? But they had a lot of debt. You're talking, $500,000, almost $1 million in debt. That's a lot of damn money to be in debt, right? And so when you sit down with people and they're doing well financially, as professionally, you know, working in the city, um, multiple six-figure incomes, you think they'd be okay, right? More money, more problems. More money, more problems. So, we had the opportunity to sit down and get them a plan in place, right? So that they could actually move forward, right? And start feeling a little less stressed. We got some money management advice and strategies, and some investments that we could actually turn around for them, right? And so they're doing that and they're working on it, and it's working for them, and it's going to work for their family in the long run. So they're really happy with that, and I'm proud to be a part of that process, right? Because this is what I do, this is what we do, and this is how we work together, right? So here we go. We're going to keep this thing going, right? Um, you got to teach yourself and your kids that money is a tool, not just survival. So we're going to go from one end of the spectrum to the other. Um, the family that I spoke of, they're multiple six-figure earners, you know, each one of them too. That's what I mean. Like, they were very successful, but they had poor money habits, you know. They had poor money habits, because they were living well and they just thought they could do it. And they did it and they did it and they kept doing it, right? Until they found themselves in a situation. But for me to flip it to the other end of the spectrum, there are people who are not living like that. There are a lot more people not living like that than there are that are, right? That do. And you got to teach your kids about money. So it's just not survival. Um, Having multiple kids at a young age myself, knowing other people who have had multiple children at a young age that didn't really plan for families and or middle income, and they planned for a family but had some hardships, loss of jobs, with the onset of technology and AI. People are starting to really lose their jobs, and if you were in a government job within the last few months, a lot of people were laid off in the private sector, in the government sector, right? And they really didn't, they weren't set up because they felt that their government job and their private sector jobs were going to always be there. And you know, some other people came into power and decided that, hey, it was a lot of it was wasteful. And we can all agree, at some point that our government is spending a lot of money, right? And like I said, this is not a political show, but economically, like the military, they always said you could get a toilet that's over 5,000, a toilet seat that's $5,000, or a hammer that's $3,000. Like, are you kidding me? That's just wasteful spending, right? So you got to teach your kids about money tools, and it's just not about survival. Right? So when children hear you arguing about money, you know, um, it sets those habits and mindset thinking. Like, this is who we are, this is who we're not. And what happens is, if you've had no people who don't throw clothes away, who hold on to everything, and so that's where this comes from, right? A lack of insight about money and how things are acquired. um, just getting by to strategically growing, that's something that is also taken in practice, right? So when you have those kinds of conversations about just getting by, you've got to also include the solution. What is a possible solution to just getting by? What are some of the tips and tricks you can implement to just from just getting by to strategically growing? So what does that look like for you? Um, I was on a mentoring call the other day, and they said, well, if you needed to get, you know, an extra $500 a week into your household, what would you do? And the person said, well, I don't know what I would do. But then they say that's not an answer. I don't know. It's not an answer. You need another $500 a week in your home, or your a month into your home. What are you going to do? Well, I don't know. And then so that went back and forth for a while. Like that's not an answer to like, well, if someone were to take something from you that was really important and you needed to get it back, how would you raise that money? Oh, well, maybe I would sell some of my stuff, or maybe I get a second job, or I upskill, or you know, I would do something that to get that money. I go into my storage and sell, some of the things that were there. And guess what? It was apparent that the person already had the answers to their own dilemma. They just were not willing to think for themselves to get it. And so that's why I'm saying there's not a money problem in this country, because there's wealth all around us. It's just there's a lack of going to get that extra money problem, or issue. I don't like that word problem, because that suggests there's no solution. Issues have solutions. There's a lack of getting the money issue in this country, because there's plenty of cash here. There's plenty of money, and it's all around us, right? There's just a right way and there's a wrong way. There's two economical systems in this country. There's one for the wealthy and the one for the poor. And how you choose what system that you're going to participate in is up to you, and it decides where you stay at, whether you stay poor or whether you become wealthy. So I'm gonna throw out some things there. Like here are two very good strategies. Um, in the importance of financial literacy. I'm going to tell you right now, you need to start reading some books, right? So, get your pens and paper out, right? Because this show is about solutions, right? I've given in the previous episodes, I've dropped some call to actions. Here's some for you right now. Start reading some books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Cash Flow Quadrant, both by the same author, Robert Kiyosaki. As a Man Thinketh, Napoleon Hill, um, you know, with the what's this, the 21 steps, the 21 rules, irrefutable rules to success, I believe it is, to leadership. You've got to read books that are going to inspire your mindset. There's a whole list of books they're all twisted up in my head, but I'm going to come out with those as well too, so don't worry. Right, you got to start reading some books, listening to my podcast, right, because I'm going to be dropping these nuggets. Take some courses, get mentorship. I have a mentor who has a mentor who has a mentor. Are you kidding me? Right? Use me as your mentor to get started. This is no cost mentorship right here. Use it. Use the nuggets. Go back into the videos, and those beginning episodes, and write some things down. Take some notes, and then let it lead you to the next piece of information. Right? Because that's what we need to do, is take one step at a time. This is one step for you right here, right now, right? Encourage tough but necessary conversations with your family about breaking old cycles. Man, all I can tell you is that I make it a point to say the tough things to the people I love. I make it a point, because if I can't be honest with the people that I love, even though it may sound harsh, but that's what they may need to hear, then I'll be the martyr. Because you're not going to come to me later on and say, why didn't you tell me that? Because I'm going to say, oh, no, I told you. I did mention it. I wasn't talking fast. You was listening slow. Okay. Because that's how it works with me. I'm going to make sure I say what's necessary, because I can't lie to myself. And I really, really try not to lie to myself about like what's happening with me. Right. So if I'm not going to lie to me, why would I do you less, provide less for you? Right. That's just who I am. right? And sometimes people tell me, "Oh, Michael, you're a little bit harsh, a little bit, you know." I got to work on that. I'm not perfect, right? So, but at least you can never say, "Well, you didn't say that. You didn't tell me that. You didn't bring it to my attention." Because that's who I will. I will have those tough conversations with family about breaking some cycles, right? And in behaviors, right? When it comes to money, people, they handle that money. And so there's some other things that I heard too, as well as that, you know, everybody's guaranteed to grow up. Not everybody's guaranteed to become mature. And so you will grow old, you will be an adult, but will you act responsibly as quote unquote an adult is supposed to act? Emotionally, spiritually, monetarily, right? Physically, you're an adult. But are you handling yourself and your responsibilities as such? Because that's what it boils down to. I've got to hold myself accountable or get myself some mentors to hold me accountable. Accountability partner. If you don't want to call them a mentor because you think somebody telling you what to do, if you got those kind of things going on with you, you don't want nobody telling you what to do. Just get an accountability partner or someone that you can mimic that's living the life that you're living, you want to live, right? Then there you go. I heard this the other day, and I'm going to make sure that I keep posting this, from now until whenever, right? But there's a king and a queen in all of us, right? So I'm talking to my men and my women out there, right? There's a king and a queen and a fool in every one of us. So if you're a man, you're a king, but you got a fool in there too. And if you're a woman, you're a queen and you got a fool in there too. And what I'm going to suggest is that you listen to the people that talks to the king or the queen in you rather than the fool in you. So if you got those hee hee ha ha kind of people around you, maybe you spend a little bit less time with those people because they're not going to lead you to where it is that you need to be or who you need to become, right? Because I spoke about it in the previous episode where I said that there's three most important days in every person's life: the day you were born, the day you figured out why you were born, and then the day you committed to that gift that the creator put into you to just to share it with the world, right? And if they're not helping that to refine and bring about that gift in you so that you can be the best version of yourself, then what you hanging with them for? I know they might be your best friend or your lifelong friend. They can still be all that, but don't let their version of you keep you the old version, right? You've got to grow into the new version of you, right? So talk with those people, hang around those people that are going to bring out the queen in you, the king in you, right? Not the fool in you. So let's keep this thing moving, right? So here's some more action steps for you. I want you to take this week, I want you to identify one inherited habit that doesn't serve you, right? And I just talked to you about the king and the queen. So one habit, if you hanging around one person that's just not quite adding to you or pushing you or encouraging you to that king or that queen, spend a little bit less time with them. Don't diss nobody because that's not what I'm saying here. And if it's family, kiss them and just tell them I got something I got to do, right? But what I'm saying is, if the plane's going down, you got to put your mask on first. That's all I'm talking about here, right? So identify one inherent habit that doesn't serve you, whether it be hanging around people, money habits, spending habits, um, you know, um, social habits that we're not going to speak to because that's not this kind of show. If it's not serving you, then what are you doing with it, right? We need to identify it. Then replace it with a healthy habit, saving more before spending and investing regularly. Because we're talking about finance and economics in this show, and legacy building, right? So we want to make sure that we're addressing the money concerns. Then we want to make sure that we're building healthy habits and hanging around the right people to encourage better living, legacy, and money habits, right? Because it all goes together. You can't have one without the other touching that, right? There's all connected. We're going to commit to teaching one new positive money habit to your kids or your spouse, right? We're talking about breaking the cycle here, people. Breaking the cycle means that you got to step away from what you've always been doing, right? If you just keep running around in a circle, right? Guess what? You're just going to have a trench, a circular trench, right? You don't want to be stuck in a rut, right? Especially a money rut, right? Some people just they head in their hands like, oh my God, what am I going to do? You got to stop, think, re-strategize, and do something different. That's what it is. Read some books, get a mentor, use my program, take some suggestions that in the previous episodes in this one to getting your mind and your money right. Let's keep it going. Then we're going to emphasize that change that's just it's a part of the process. It's got to put some emphasis on the process as not just a one-time event. So, right. We got to put some emphasis on the change. You got to focus on that, right? Because wherever you focus, energy flows. Where your attention goes, and energy flows. So that's what you got to do. You got to put your attention on that, so that energy will flow to it, so that you can make some of those changes, right? That's just what that's what's happening here. So the least call to action here that I got for everybody is that, hey, you got to share this episode with some friends and family, because this is truly the crux of most of our issues. Generational Lack of generational change in money habits, in behavior, right? So like I said, where attention goes, energy flows. You've got to start acknowledging some of the bad habits that you have or that you exhibit and practice, and change them one at a time. Let's not make this rocket science, because it's not. We have the ability to grow, to become adults, and we have the ability to mature and change, evolve. That's one of the greatest gifts that the Creator gave to us, right? Is the ability to evolve, the choice, the power of choice, right? So we can use that choice, decide, and commit to getting to our gift, to getting better money habits, to get to a better living state. That's it. That's it. That's what we do here. So share this episode with people. Go to the YouTube, share the Legacy Insights podcast, hit the subscribe button, scan that QR code on the page, get to that financial overview and information that's there, so you can confirm what you already know, learn some new tips and tricks, um, learn some new money strategies, go through the entire program that's there. Make sure you get that information so that you can apply it to yourself, right? So that you can share it with your family, share it with your children, right? That's what this is all about, sharing it with your children, so that, guess what? One day when you plant these seeds, that tree will grow, and they'll be able to sit in the shade of that financial tree, right? And be protected from the storms that are coming, because they're coming. They're coming. And like I said, we had a great financial tax retirement strategies over a presentation this past week. You know what? I'm going to start posting these online, because you know what? I got to get more of you people and the listeners involved, right? In the advanced strategies. But I just, like I said, we got to start small and build this thing up to rolling. We got to start building it up. right? And that's what we're doing here. So, the power of change, you just don't shift your finances, you shift your family's future. So with that, I'm just going to say, you know what? I am so happy that we've gotten to episode 9 of the pillars of change, right? Episode 9, the pillar change, so that we can change the paycheck to paycheck cycle, right? Because it's about growth, and if we're not growing, you're dying. They say that about business, and you can actually be applied to your life, right? We are meant to flourish. We are meant to live a life of abundance. We are meant to live a life of joy, right? Don't deny yourself that. Don't deny your family that, right? If you're a man or a woman and you're a king or that queen, that you're at the sound of my voice right now, you know what I'm saying is true. You know what I'm saying is true. Be that person that changes the deadly cycle of paycheck to paycheck in your family. Be that person that can actually change your family's legacy by starting it, showing people how you're living, right? Because that's what they're going to remember you for. They're going to remember you by what you do, right? They've heard you, but they're going to really remember what you've done and what you've done for the family as a man, as a king, as a woman, as a queen, leading, being their mentors, right? Because when you have a mentor, you can mentor someone else. Isn't that beautiful? And usually, the first people you get to mentor is your family members, is your children, because they're watching, they're listening, they're learning from you. Teach them the right things. Teach them that they don't have to live with less. Teach them, show them that they can have a legacy. I am your host, Moving Money Mike, and I want to thank you for the privilege of your time. So tonight, I'm just going to say it again. You just don't shift your finances, you shift your family's future. And with that, we're going to tap out. I'm just going to tease a little bit for next week's episode and the final pillar in the legacy, you. Because it comes down to you, people. Personal stories and mindset, overcoming financial shame, and legacy reflections. I'm your host, Moving Money Mike. Thank you very much for the privilege of your time. Hit that subscribe button at Legacy Insights Podcast. Scan that QR code, get that overview, get that information, change those paycheck to paycheck cycles in your life, change your family's legacy. I'm out. I'm Moving Money Mike. See you in the next episode.